From the US to Italy to Japan, and now we come back stateside. A variety of different types of tracks have challenged our drivers, and today brings them to yet another unique circuit. Short in length, highly technical, yet also high speed, Road Atlanta already hosts one of the world's most prestigious sports car races, the Petit Le Mans. Today won't be nearly as long, but the difficulty will be just as high. We'll see who can handle it as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday series, and you'll see it all live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, with iRacing having just held their version of the Petit Le Mans, most of the drivers will be intimately familiar with this course. But in the case that our viewers don't know about this place, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Of course, and welcome everyone to Brazelton, Georgia, USA, home of Road Atlanta. This 2.5 mile or 4 kilometer 12-turn course opened in 1970, and it has been a main staple for sports car racing throughout the years. As we discussed before, home of the Petit Le Mans. In fact, the real race happening this weekend. Started in 1998, many famous winners have come through to win this track. But also, it is a very difficult technical course that even the most seasoned veterans have find very difficult. Most can maybe remember in 1998 where the famous Porsche 9 GT1 car flipped during the opening race hours of that race. But to give you the chance to see what it is like to drive here at Road Atlanta, let's take you on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Road Atlanta. Coming down to turn 1, this is a frighteningly fast corner. You might still see some brave passes into here, but a mishap tends to end your day quickly. From there, you'll try to line yourself up over the blind crest of 2 and set up for 3. Knowing your turn-in point will be tricky and require great precision. After that, you'll hug the inside of 4 to set yourself up for the S's. The racing through this valley should be pretty much single file all day, otherwise you're taking an incredible risk. Turn 5 sees a lot of unforced errors, and most drivers pay for it in bodywork with how little runoff there is on either side. Finally, you get a short breather up to 6, which has more camber than you'd expect. That makes it tough to overtake here, and honestly, it's better to set yourself up for 7 anyways. This is the most critical corner of the circuit, with it leading you onto the backstretch. Fail to get a good launch on the exit, and you'll find yourself very vulnerable to attack. You see, it's not just the slipstream that offers your opponents a good opportunity. It's the fact that the turn 10 chicane is one of the heaviest braking zones of the lap. For the layman, that means a majority of the passes you'll see will take place here. So if the other driver doesn't get it done on the straight, they're likely to try to beat you to the apex when you get on the binders. From off the corner, you'll already start aiming the car across the crest and under the bridge. From there, it's very marginal getting through the final corner, which is another really dangerous turn. But hopefully you've kept it together and have now finished the lap around Road Atlanta. And there's a lap around Road Atlanta in the Ford as we watch one of the Porsches work its way around in qualifying. This series, of course, is brought to you by the Simulation MotorSports Association. SIMMSA is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim races to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing eSports world. SIMMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements, custom-built simulator parts, complete customization, and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SIMMSA.net. Definitely go check them out. Big thank you to them for helping support this series. That said, let's take a look at the championship now, continuing to get a little bit mixed up. Up at the top right now, Carl Modoff still in the lead with William Whalen now moving himself into second, very close to Carl, only 2 points behind. Ben Perez gets demoted after last race with Mark McDonald down there in 12th, staying put, and Ricardo Gama with his very good finish last round jumps up into the top 5. One name you might be noticing is 2-time winner so far this season, Jesper Derlicka. He had a very bad finish in round 2, and since we haven't counted drop weeks yet, that's why you don't see him in the top 5. We also have a teams championship, and Taylor, what are we looking at over there?
the team's championship is tightening up more than ever. Right now, it is still Team Bushfink with Perez and Eisler being the head of the mark right now with 160 points. Team SDS Racing Team with the Montini brothers gained 2 spots after a really good run for them in Suzuka last week. They move into the second position with Sailors Racing Team staying put with Pinto and Gama holding on in third. Fury Sim Sports with Harwood and Janowski. Both of them had a really good runs at Suzuka, with Harwood finishing inside the top 5. He comes home. They start in the 4th position, gaining 3 positions. And rounding out your top 5 is the SDS Racing Team. They are newcomers also as well, with Carini and Corellia coming in with 76 points behind the leaders. So Joe is tightening up right now here in the team standings.
It's fascinating to watch how that works itself out. In case you've never watched the American iRacing Tuesday series, well, they have a traditional format here. Let's go through that. We are in round 4, as we mentioned. You see, they do have 1 drop week in their points, and that's going to shuffle it up a lot once we start using those in that points update that we show you. The 3 cars are the GTE cars. There you can see the 3 different makes that are allowed to compete in this series. The race distance today is 60 minutes, which means you can expect 1 pit stop. As they go through the race, obviously with that 1 pit stop strategy going to be very important. But the other thing that's important in these cars is the setups. They are open, which means anything that you can change on these cars in real life, you can change here in iRacing. Tweak them, adjust them to your leisure. Now, they have an incident cap at 40. And what that means is if a car has an incident, that includes an off-track, spinning, running into the wall, or running into another car, that gives them a certain number of incident points. Once they hit 40, that's tracked automatically within the iRacing simulator, and they are immediately disqualified on the spot. When they have hit that 40 limit, they will be removed from the track right then and there. So we're just watching qualifying work its way through. A number of times have been put on the board, but before we go to that, we have the traditional keys to the race. Taylor, what's going to make the difference out there?
Well, the difference is going to be in making sure that you survive this track. This track, even though it is very high speed, is very technical. It's very tricky to get through. And some of the most difficult parts of the track is going to be the S's. Make sure that you go, it's a downhill section. Make sure you hit the apex as best you can. And it's very easy, though, to get loose, especially in those first few turns. Another point is, there is a little bit of an area where you can utilize a bit of a draft. It's that back straightaway coming off of turn 7, going through turns 8 and 9, and making your way down towards turns 10. Turn 10 is a great place for drivers to make a passing opportunity. We've seen it especially at Petit Le Mans in the iRacing version last weekend, and this weekend we will see it here on PRL. But be careful though, if you don't overshoot those corners, watch out for contact among those 2 chicanes. Another point is, there is a couple of danger spots. Turn 1 is very difficult to get through. Very easy to get loose through that section, as well as overshoot your braking mark. So be careful going into there, and make sure to have a smooth transition. Also, turn 3, it's an uphill blind corner, so you really can't point out your braking mark until you're right up on the turn. So drivers are going to have to be careful going through that section as well. But Joe, I think if they're able to survive that, this will be quite the race to watch.
Certainly, as we watch one of the drivers there take themselves through that turn 3 you mentioned. Always scared me no matter what car get up there. That braking is so tough. This one as well, turn 5, as broaden navigates over those large exit curbs. Now, you talked about the Petit Le Mans, and so many of these drivers probably took part, considering these GTE cars, one of the classes in that 10-hour endurance race. Do you think that's going to help at all here, considering it's so much of a shorter race?
Probably, and plus some of these drivers have already were in these cars over the weekend, so it's still fresh in their minds of the track. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be a bit of a benefit for them, since they have so much time and hours spent on this course.
So we watch Gama currently sitting in 4th. Remember, he started in pole last race, so he wasn't looking as good in warm-up, I must say. I was a little surprised at how far down he was sitting in the warm-up times, but obviously a little bit better in qualifying. Driver back up there, and on his game is Ben Perez, who actually just wrecked in the S's himself, but sitting in 2nd on the front row. Bad sign for the field is that Jesper Derlicka who, as I mentioned, has won 2 out of 3. Right now, he's sitting on the top spot, Taylor. But I don't think we've seen him start from pole yet.
I don't think we have either 3 rounds in. Usually he's in the top 3, top 4 as far as in qualifying. So seeing him at the top of the podium or the top of the standings right now as the time ticks away, this is going to be quite interesting to see if he's able to pull off the pole position here tonight.
Both of his victories so far, Derlicka won through fuel saving, so he's used to waiting behind other cars, but we'll see what he can do if he tries to lead the way. Maybe he'll give it away early as Justin Hall crosses the line, sitting in 24th at the moment. They're running out of time, though. The laps are relatively short, but with less than 3 minutes left, I have a feeling that you've really got to get something together, got to get fresh tires on and get out there for a fast one.
Yes, indeed. And of course, with this track being such a small course, as we go to Ben Perez.
Yep, he's coming to finish his lap. I think this is a warm-up lap, though, since he just wrecked not long ago.
Yeah.
You were saying, though, Taylor?
Due to the fact this is such a short course, it won't take long for some of these faster cars to catch up to the back end of the field. So we may see some issues as far as drivers working their way through lap traffic later on into this race.
Well, and that brings up a good point with that lap traffic. This course is almost 2 different courses between the front half and the back half. So I have to imagine that it'll depend heavily where you catch that traffic.
Exactly. If you catch it towards the back half of this track, you're pretty much going to be doing okay as far as getting through lap traffic. But if you catch them from turn 1 all the way up probably to turn 5, turn 6, you're looking at some very risky maneuvering for our leaders as they work through that lap traffic. Not as risky as we saw in an Autobahn, but still very difficult.
Yeah, thankfully not 3 classes out here as we watch Christian Eisler just finished another lap, still sitting in 3rd. Perez is now coming around for what should be a timed lap as long as he didn't have an off track. And if this one does include an off track, I think he'll have time for at least 2 more. It's going to be awful tight. He comes up over the hill under the Suzuki Bridge. Around the final corner, let's see what this one includes. A 14.6, his fastest time so far, and it does not count, actually. So, one more time around, and looks like one last chance. I think he didn't cross in time, so this is it for Ben Perez to try and take the pole away from the 97 of Derlicka.
Watching Alexander Cofferter right now in the number 127 Ferrari. He's going through turns 10 at the moment. And he's got a really good run out of there. Let's see if he comes to the line. Improves. No improvement. Does not.
Eisler's going to be next. He's been bumped 4th by Romagnolo. Remember, he was sitting 3rd not long ago. This time by, though, another driver not able to bump himself up. But again, the clock will allow them to finish this hot lap. So Eisler gets one last chance.
Francisco Montini bumps up inside the top 5. Really good effort for the 06 car. So we watch Thomas Ellison cross the line. No improvement either for the 027 Porsche.
All right, Perez comes around. This is it. Last chance. You can see the clock ticking down. He's just not quite going to make it in time. And the last lap does not improve. So front row will be good enough for Ben Perez as long as nobody topples him. I can say that Eisler has abandoned his lap, so he's not going to be able to improve his position either. Coffert is going to be the next one around. He's sitting in 12th at the moment with a 15.4. Let's see if this Ferrari can take him out at least a couple spots on the last gasp. No, he does not improve.
Carl Modov coming down under the Suzuki Bridge through turns 12. Let's see if he improves. He's starting P9.
Doesn't count.
No, does not count.
Must have had an off track there.
We got William Whalen. I think we got William Whalen. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it in time. He's on the back straightaway entering turn 10.
After a 2nd place last round, it's going to be a lot harder to get on the podium. This one sitting in that 8th position of 15.1, his best lap. Let's see what he's got. That green and black Porsche crosses the line. And a 1:15.1, but not faster than his other one.
No.
that's going to be it for our field. Qualifying has finished, so let's go through our starting grid. It is a rolling start, so we got a little bit of time. Jasper Durlicka, as we mentioned, getting what we think is his first pole so far this season. Ben Perez will be flanking him there in second. Then row 2, we'll have Giuliano Romagnolo starting from third. Christian Eisler will be fourth, refinding his pace in this series. Francisco Montini will be fifth, and Ricardo Gama starts P6. Then in row 4, you've got Daniel Pinto. A little bit far down for him. He hasn't really had great pace so far this season. William Whalen, a little bit farther down than what we're used to for him, starting 8th. Carl Modoff will be P9, and rounding out our top 10, it's going to be Nick Harwood.
Starting in the 11th position will be Alex Albert, followed by Alexander Cofford in the 12th position. Aaron Thacker in the 816 will be starting in the 13th position alongside Thomas Ellison. Pete Mabroten and Maxi Sorelli will be starting in the 15th and 16th position, followed by Jean Carini and Michael Derby in 17th and 18th. Cristobal Valenzuela will start in the 19th position, and rounding out your top 20 will be Kyle Smith.
Starting in 21st, it'll be Justin Hall with Takeshi Kita in 22nd. Lucio Vargas will be P23 at the drop of the green with Hugo Galaz next to him in 24th. James LeBlanc starts in the 25th spot with Danny Duchesne 26. He'll hope for a better start to this race than he had in Suzuka. Victor O'Brien starts 27th. Karsten Quint, 28th, Gary Schilling, 29th, and rounding out our 30-car field is Andre Martins, who did not set a time. We'll see if he actually takes to the grid. He was very fast in the warm-up. Could be a cat amongst the pigeons today. So looking through our stats as we wait for the cars to take off for their pace lap. One thing that I've noticed that's interesting, you know, I talked about Modoff leading the points. A big reason for that is one of the things we always talk about wins championships, Taylor, consistency. He's the only driver so far who has taken all 3 top 5s in every race.
And that is what's going to help him win a championship as long as he continues to finish in the top 5. Now, if he has a bad week like Jesper had at Imola, it might change the matter. But right now, as long as he keeps getting those good finishes, we may be looking at a new champion.
That'll be a bit of a shocker. Modoff has had good pace. Obviously, he won at Imola, but really don't remember him being a major force last season. And in fact, I don't think he raced last season at all. Just waiting for the last of the cars to come out for the grid. And actually, no, we aren't, as it looks like Martins will not start this race. So 29 cars starting for us as they follow the roof pace car around for a single pace lap. Looking at how the field is set up, yet again, things just don't seem to be the same from race to race. I was talking to you about this before we went live, Taylor. It seems very much this season that drivers have strengths and weaknesses as we go from track to track, which is not what I'm used to in most series we cover.
It is strange to see it in this type of series, to where we see drivers excel in some tracks and then just struggle at others. I mean, we do see it in the real world where drivers have that certain track there where they are excelling at, and then the ones they struggle. But mostly in sim racing, we see pretty much all drivers are well rounded out depending on the car or series they drive in. But here it's just almost like a real world series.
Yeah, and today could yet throw up more surprises as we ride on board here with one of our Ferraris and see the cars ahead just trying to get everything set up. Not as important here in the virtual world to get the tires warmed, as these vehicles are pretty much good from the get-go. Coming out of turn 7, what I've always considered really the most important corner on the track, if you ask me, Taylor.
Yeah, that corner is very important to get as much speed off the corner exit, because if you do mess up or get too much off the track, it's going to cost you multiple positions, as well as losing a lot of time on the competition. So you need to get a good corner exit off the track, even if it means braking a little bit early to help make the car turn a little bit through there. I know that's what I try to do going through that corner, and it really does help gain that speed that you need down this back straightaway.
Back straightaway leading to the chicane that Taylor mentioned a little bit earlier. can see how heavy of a braking zone it is, and a downhill braking zone, we should point out too. So it'll be easy for drivers to find themselves in the kitty litter. Now, as the pace car gets ready to peel off, Derlicka is going to control the field up and under the Suzuki bridge. He accelerates away. Green flag is out here for round 4 of the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday series. A good jump from Derlicka gets him single file ahead of Perez by the time they hit turn 1. First side-by-side battle is between Whalen and Montini. Montini's going to come out ahead of that, and then they really need to get things sorted out here for turn 3.
Down through turn 3 they go. We got a couple of battles going on right now between Harwood and Pinto. They go nose to tail as they go down through the S's up towards turn 5. Nice run for the drivers, as looks like Alex Albert gets a good run on Carl Modoff as we have a battle for P9.
Great start through the S's and everything, because usually we see a little bit of chaos into turn 3, most series that come here. Oh, great run onto the backstretch from Ben Perez. Look at this. He is tucked up right under the gearbox of Derlicka, but will we see a pass? Is Perez maybe going to give Derlicka a little bit of his own medicine? And in fact, it looks like he lifted.
He did a little bit. Just let off the gas a little bit, gives them enough room to utilize the draft, utilize saving fuel. Down into turn 10 they go. Derlicka pulls away just a little bit, but right now it is still Derlicka, Perez, and Romagnola, your top 3.
Pretty single file, even after the backstretch. Not many passes being attempted. LeBlanc got overtaken by Duchesne, and that's about the only overtake I saw down into the chicane first lap through. Still a lot of racing yet to go, and look at the different lines between the leaders coming up to 3.
Yeah, some decide to go down a little bit and then work their way back up. Some decide to stay towards that outer line and then turn in, and then some just try to go straight through the middle. So a lot of different exits or entries into that corner.
And that brings up a point that maybe we should talk about, is that pit exit and the way that it dumps into traffic. Is that going to be a concern today? Do you think drivers could potentially get tangled if they don't know that someone's coming out?
Possibly. That's why drivers need to keep an ear out on their spotters.
Look on the pass for the lead.
We got a pass for the lead right now.
Ben Perez got another good run on Jesper Derlicka. This time, though, he's not holding back. He's using the momentum, even though Derlicka holds the inside down into the chicane. Since Perez is fully passed, I think this is done and dusted. Move BP up to the first position.
This is where Derlicka normally is for that first half. He likes to maybe be behind someone, save a little fuel, and pass them in the end, in a sense.
A lot of action happening around Ricardo Gama. Lost a couple positions. Nick Harwood and William Whalen sneaking by in the chicane. You can see they're all clumped together now. Oh, we got a car off.
Gets a little bit loose in turn 1. Let's see if he's able to recover. Losing a lot of positions.
He didn't hit anything, but able to come back after falling way down the order. Now, did something else happen? Whoa, almost side by side there between Pinto and Broaden.
Pinto's having a little bit of issue recovering from that incident. Maxi Sorelli was all over the back bumper, had to let off to give him room.
And that was brave from Pete. Usually you don't try to make passes into the S's. Well, while that has been happening, Gama has not fallen away from his battle. This is between himself and Harwood, with the car of Carl Modoff watching on. In fact, he's going to try and make it 3 wide. Here we go, early in the race, and the action is heating up. Albert now in the popcorn position behind them. Modoff decides to back out with a pass down the inside from Gama. Tries to make it stick, doesn't work as Harwood holds him off. They're going to be 2 by 2 over the hill. Off track for Gama. Tries to collect it, gets shoved outside, somehow keeps it out of the wall in the final corner. But another Porsche finding himself losing multiple positions.
Alex Albert, the big winner of that, was able to gain 2 spots, and now has got his eyes set on Nick Harwood going up towards turn 3.
Boy, for a 60-minute race, this is some very hard racing in their first 10 minutes. Back up through the S's, through the tricky turn 5. So now that order has shuffled around, it is now Harwood in 7th, Albert in 8th, Modoff 9th, Ellison in 10th, Thacker in 11th, Cofford in 12th, and Gama at the tail of it in 13th.
Big lockup by Thacker going into that corner.
Well, make the tail end, Charlie. Now, Aaron Thacker. And in fact, he's struggling to get back on the course. He's going to lose another spot to Daniel Pinto, the recovering Iberian driver.
Albert's maybe going to look to the inside, going into turn 10. He gets on the inside. Oh, contact!
Oh. Both go around. Oh, almost contact with one of their teammates. His car's scattered to get by. Look at all the positions just tumbling down the order. Oh, and Albert almost ran into another car trying to get recovered there. Trying to figure out, that was Lucio Vargas.
And Harwood's now battling right now with Carini right now going into turn 1, so that's definitely a calamity corner in a sense where drivers go side by side. It's very difficult to go that deep into turn 10. You never know what's going to happen if you're even going to come out of there, you know, spinning out. So you have to be very careful going through there.
So put yourself in one of these mid-pack driver shoes here, Taylor. You see multiple cars having off that you keep going by. Do you maybe back it off a little bit and just try and get it to the finish, thinking you could make points by position or by attrition as we watch the battle for 14th here?
That is definitely a good idea to do, especially for such a long race that we have going on. But due to the fact that it's just a small field, I mean, it is 28 drivers. It is, even though it's a very large field, a lot of drivers still want to push hard and work their way up as quickly as possible before those pit stops happen. So as we see Michael Derby get hard onto the brakes into turn 10, he's got his eyes set on Maxi Sorellia. Gets a good run off at turn 10, going into turn 12 right now.
Right now, he's got a pair of teammates, the HJ Motorsports cars of Derby and Cofford, really hounding him. So I'm not sure how much he's looking forward as he is keeping an eye on those mirrors. Sorella right now.
Oh, we have an issue with Montini. He gets loose into the wall.
Turn 5 takes another victim.
Take a look at that on the replay.
And I've seen this before. The sister team that I ran with and the Petit Le Mans had this very thing happen. Montini finds the curbs, can really upset the car coming out of turn 5. And when it got loose, there's just no runoff on that outside there.
There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Hard into the barriers.
So that drops him down to 9th now with quite a bit of damage. You can see that was Gama going by. So far, we haven't seen a whole lot of action up at the top. Perez, Derlicka, Romagnolo have just been running in line. They're closely followed by Eisler, and then you've got a big gap back to Billy Whalen. See, Modoff just set the fastest lap of the race. He sits in 6th. That battle for 13th still hot. That's Derby being challenged by his teammate Cofford. Can't do anything up into 3. A little offline, though, for Derby. Could this hurt his speed down the hill?
Looks like it might. Cofford's got a good run down through the S's up to turn 5. Let's see what they do. He's also got the pressure from Nick Harwood right now as they go down this little straightaway, making their way towards turn 6.
Remember, Harwood's slightly out of position right now because of the spots that he lost with his contact earlier on. Going to try and set himself up out of 7, but I think he got a little too close to the back of Cofford, and now it's going to cost him instead as those two cars streak away.
Cofford gets a good run. He's going to get on the back bumper, utilize the draft a little bit. Derby tries to defend a little bit, but it looks like now Cofford looks to the inside, down towards turn 10. Who gets on the brakes first? Looks like Ellison does. Give the spot over to Cofford.
Yep. Derby didn't fight that too hard, but oh, now look at this is going to cost him as well, because Harwood gets the run off the chicane and move Harwood now up to 14th. A little bit of an over-under attempt from Derby, but down the front stretch, there's nothing doing on that one. Still quite a bit of this race left to go. Up in 8th position, Gama, who started this race in 6th, Still trying to come back forward. That's Montini just behind him. Of course, Gama's got to be aware as well that his teammate Pinto is behind him at the moment. So right now, Gama carrying the torch for Sailors and trying to score the most points. Let's see if Pinto can switch that back around and use his pace to get himself back to be the #1 car in that team.
Surprisingly, not a good start to the season for Pinto. Oh, as he gets loose in turn 10.
Boy, talk about predictions coming true. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's get a little replay of that, because that was a little awkward of how he was going into the corner through turn 10.
And right after we watch that, can we switch to a replay of Crawford and Harwood who had more contact?
So we go on board.
This is Pinto. Just simply outbrakes himself, I think.
It does. It looks like he just missed his mark, went a little bit too deep, and through the grass he goes.
Yeah. Now, if we could switch over, it happened at almost the same time. Harwood and Crawford. Harwood kind of sent one in. We'll have to jump back about 30 seconds from where this replay is right now. So there we see the end of Crawford's incident. All right, here we go. So Harwood sends one up the inside. Crawford sees him, gives him room, and then, unfortunately for Crawford, Harwood starts to lose it and just turns him around. So that bumps them down to 13th, and where is Crawford now, actually? Is he out? Oh yeah, he's in the pits, and this is way too early for strategy. So while all this has been happening, Jesper Durlicka was falling off to about 0.7 of a second behind Perez. Well, that's been cut down. It is now 0.4, and momentarily it was even 0.3 of a second. These cars are keeping a close eye on one another. This is starting to become a theme, I'm noticing, though, that it seems like the top three break away a little bit, Taylor, and they all kind of hold position, and then the pit stops happen and all hell breaks loose.
That's pretty much the case for this series where, like you said, the top three just has their own little race amongst themselves, and then once pit stops happen, we get a whole new set of characters, or just the order just reshuffles completely. So it's kind of the calm before the storm right now for the top three.
In case you're wondering about our championship leader, Modoff is in 5th. He's being hounded by William Whalen for that spot. But regardless if it's 5th or 6th, this is still going to be a good result for Carl. Although I'm sure if he's watching the stats, he would probably like to get a 5th to keep up that top 5 stat.
I know I would if I was Mr. Modoff right now. Having 3 top 5s in a row, adding a 4th one to the list would not be a bad start to the season, especially being race 4.
Up and through turn 5 once again. Whalen drops back slightly, not as much of a threat as he was half a lap ago. So going to 15th, we've got Justin Hall close behind Carini, but then there's a whole bunch of cars behind him as well. Valenzuela is there, and Kyle Smith, and then it's not too big of a gap back to Vargas.
This little battle right here has been going on for a couple of laps right now, and it's been quite entertaining to watch. Right now, as we see Justin Hall get onto the brakes, going up towards turn 7. Let's see if he gets a good run.
And Hall's been on quite a tear. He started in 21st. To get up to this 15th spot, that's a number of decent positions to try and pull away, and he could get one more soon, depending on how aggressive he wants to be on Carini.
He's getting closer. He's going to try to utilize a little bit of the draft down towards turn 10, hard onto the brakes. Not close enough. They got Nick Hardwood in their sight, as he is slightly damaged and wounded, so this will bring in Carini and Justin Hall, but Valenzuela gets a good run off of turn 10 and has closed the gap on Justin Hall up to turn 1. Let's see what happens.
Not close enough to try and pass into 1. with this little break-in as these cars take. Even though they can see hardwood, I really don't feel like they're challenging him right now unless he drops a lot of pace. You did mention that he's damaged. He's actually been hit twice this race, so curious to know how much that's affecting him.
Well, right now, not affecting him too much to where these drivers are able to catch up to him, but as far as gaining times on the competitors in front of them, it probably is affecting him quite a lot.
Quarter of the way through the race, and P8 heating up a little bit. Thomas Ellison, having started in 14th, just picking off car after car. Pinto's trying to reverse that, and he's got Pete Mabroten in a tow.
Pete Mabroten having a really good run tonight in the top 10, and that number 15 Fluffy Kitty Ninja Porsche doing a great job here tonight. Going to see if he can try to get another couple of more spots before the first round of pit stops happen.
Up to the crest of turn 3. All of them hugging down to the apex, and then it plunges back down to the valley of the S's. Nobody really seeming to have any sort of advantage through this part of the track up around turn 5. This can make a big difference here, depending how aggressive you want to be over those curbs. And Pinto indeed does gain quite a few car lengths. No pass attempt into 6 because he's a little far back. Let's see if he sets himself up off of 7.
Mabroten gets a good run off of turn 7, but then, of course, Pinto pulls away on corner exit. I gotta tell you, Joe, Road Atlanta is nothing but a big roller coaster here. Just watching these cars and then, of course, driving on this course. It's just a bunch of ups, downs, side to side, twists and turns. It's quite the show and quite fun to race on here.
Oh, it's one of my favorite tracks on iRacing. But if you ask our director, it's the big pork chop, actually. So you apparently like that reference. So take a look at the track map if you're curious what in the world I'm talking about. Still nobody able to make any sort of move between these three. Just a stalemate in this chess match. Ooh.
Looks like Ellison made a mistake into turn 1, but it looks like Mabroten gets a good run on corner entry into turn 3.
Yeah, Mabroten now all over the back of Daniel Pinto. Again, if you could get the run off of this one, sometimes turn 6 holds opportunities, but look at them just stretch apart yet again.
It's a big accordion effect right now. They get them in corner entries, but then corner exits, they just spread apart.
I'm curious from your experience, because I didn't really feel like it affected me too much. Do you think the aero wake is a big deal around this track? Because we saw it affect the cars in a few corners at Suzuka, but what about here?
Here is not really a big issue as far as aero wake. Not a lot of dirty air causes these cars to get too loose to the corners. Now, when these cars get side by side through certain parts of the corner, such as turn 1, you got to be careful as Pete Mabroten gets a little bit loose off of turn 10, but is able to recover, loses a bunch of time. But as long as these cars go side by side, that's when you're going to have the issues of having to deal with a lot more car control. As we go to P15.
Yep, this is that battle we were watching earlier. Hall leading Carini, Valenzuela, Smith, and Vargas. And they have definitely closed up to each other. Looking very similar to that three-way fight that we were watching before, though. A lot of single-file racing. Not many pass attempts other than what we saw in the first few laps. By the way, how did your team do in the Petit Le Mans?
We got the iRacing glitch bugs after an incident with a lap car that decided to plow into us off of turn 12. The car was completely able to get repaired, but due to the fact of a glitch, it would not let us off pit road until we exit off the server and log back in, which then in fact gave us a glitch to where the black meatball flag would not clear, causing us to be disqualified. So the guys over at Turn 3 Motorsports are a little disappointed, but we're going to get back
racing,
on the...
I guess, right?
It is iRacing for you sometime. And we're looking forward to coming back at Daytona for a strong finish. We had a definitely strong car with a top 10 finish at least.
I think that's a new phrase we should get going. Instead of that's racing, that's iRacing. So
as we have an issue.
Whoa! Yeah, that's Valenzuela almost going off track through the chicane. Kyle Smith can't capitalize, has to check up over the hill, still stuck in that 17th spot.
Let's get a replay of that, because that was some very good car control by Valenzuela to able, one, keep the car on track, and two, able to hold Kyle Smith back.
And once we're done with this, let's rewind to the same spot and jump to Thomas Ellison, because he also lost multiple positions. Look at that. Great recovery from Valenzuela. So if we could jump back one more time. This was in turn 1. Here you're going to see it. You talked about how floaty the car gets through there. Look at this. Has to lock him up and thank his lucky stars that he didn't hit anything or anyone. Can we go to the lead for a second? Because Derlicka, I mean, no surprise here. He's regained on Perez. He's been holding station. And I think we know how this story goes anymore. But what interests me more is Romagnolo. His pace seems to be dropping off slightly. And it's not a huge difference. It seems like, you know, maybe half a tenth a lap or something. But look at the gap. Just has been kind of growing bit by bit.
It is, just a little bit. That time by, he wasn't the fastest. He was the second fastest out of those three, as Derlicka was the fastest out of those three. And they're also coming up on a little bit of lap traffic. Gary Schillings, which I think Gary will be smart and move out of the way for these leaders, heading down into turn 10.
This has got to be frustrating for that Porsche of Romagnolo, because he's kind of in no man's land if he continues to lose ground. Eisler's a whole 4 seconds back, so there's really nobody behind to challenge him. It's going to be a lonely race if he falls off the draft.
It is, and that's what's so difficult about this track is when you do get in no man's land, it's very difficult to make up time unless someone makes that mistake. I know that's what happened with us when we were running over at Petit Le Mans last weekend, where we were just by ourselves for a good little bit. And then we would just start making up time once the pit stops rolled around. Speaking of that, how did your race go there, Joe, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that?
I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to make it feel like I was rubbing it in. I was in, I believe, 5th split, and my team came in 3rd, actually, having started from the pit lane and missed a lap. So it was a great recovery drive from us. Here we see the car of Schilling now pulling off to the side. Great job by Gary to see the leaders coming, let them through, and not really interrupt their race.
Yeah, it's very gentleman-like driving for Mr. Gary Schillings. Always good to see him running up there. Always not running up towards the front, but always consistent, always finishing these races, which is good for him.
Gary's a bit of a Dory Award winner, what we call them on this this broadcast. Sometimes you just got to keep swimming. Just keep the car out there and pick up spots as drivers fall by the wayside.
Looking in now at the battle for P4 right now, and Carl is closing in on Eisler. He was quite much faster than Christian Eisler that last lap, 1:15.08 compared to Eisler's 1:16.22, and this battle is heating up.
He had to be faster because he just set the fastest lap of the race, and that's not the first time we've seen Carl do that. So whatever he was lacking in qualifying, as he gets a great run out of turn 5, is he going to get aggressive down into 6? He takes a peek, starts to threaten, but comes back to the racing line, knows it's probably better for turn 7. But it seems like race pace for Carl is looking so much stronger than his qualifying pace.
Yes, indeed. And with these two racing, they are catching up to... Well, no, they're not catching up to Wheeling and Wheeling. Sorry about that. That looks like his car, but that's actually Gary Schillings in front of him. So let's see if the lap traffic of Gary will cause a little bit of an incident. I don't think it will, but you never know. These two drivers going down to turn 10.
Modov trying to get in the head of Eisler now. That's the second time he's poked his nose out, but not making a serious attempt. Schilling lifting. Nicely done. Perfectly timed.
Ooh, look at this. Side by side down towards turn 1. Can Modov break the Iceman? And looks like he will make the pass.
Yep, he pierces through, and I didn't really see much of a defense from Christian Eisler. He is looking for some good finishes. and just lets that green and white car of the championship leader take fourth place away. Oh, and Derlicka's fallen off of Perez when we weren't looking by quite a bit. It's now 1 second back.
Maybe a little fuel conservation again, as some of our back-of-the-pack drivers, such as Pete Mabroten, has decided to make his first pit stop.
All right, the number 15 car into his pit lane. That car that you see there, that's Cofford. He's still taking repairs. And I don't believe, other than Smith, we've had any, or Mabroten, we've had any scheduled stops, except for, oh, did Smith have an incident? Oh, yes, we had a big incident with Kyle Smith about 50 seconds ago. The curbs of turn 1 have bitten. You see him come down to the final chicane. Not really in a direct fight with anyone, the Michigander. Ooh, a little bit hot into that corner, but that really won't affect him up to the corner that gave him problems. It's turn 1. You see him come around that final corner. Starts to feel a little bit of pressure from the Ford GT behind. He took a lot of curb on that corner before and takes a lot of curb right here again, and the car just comes around.
Yeah, turn 1 is very difficult. Can be very easy to lose that car if you miss your braking point. And as we see with Kyle Smith, looks like the day has ended for that number 549 Ferrari.
So we come back live. We're on second place. Look at how things have switched around. Before, it was Derlicka close to Perez, and now it's Romagnolo close to Derlicka as they come up the hill. We're just about halfway through this race. We should start seeing a few drivers coming in. None of our top 3 will elect to go into the pits. Same thing with Modoff and Eisler. Looking through the field, a lot of the drivers have spread out for now. We do have a bit of a battle for 19th. This is Duchesne and Kita. Kita not doing his usual trick that we've gotten used to him seeing him do. He runs 20th. He started 22nd. In the past, Kita's been the slow climber, just running through the field, even though his qualifying tends to put him at the back of the pack at the drop of the green.
Yeah, it must be a very difficult track for Kita here tonight. Not able to get that good setup that he wanted for here at Road Atlanta, so that might be the case, but who knows, maybe with a little bit of an adjustment and pit stops, that can maybe change the course for him.
Looking back from Duchesne, switched from his Ford last season to the Porsche, but Kita running the Ford. Excuse me, it's
Porsche.
Actually a Porsche, sorry. Called that one wrong. Still not seeing any take. Oh, I take that back. We do have one car in the pits. That's Sorella. This looks like another scheduled stop to me. I don't see any real damage on the car.
Pete Mabroten's been in the pits for quite some time. I'm wondering if something has happened.
Yep, and he's now stepped out of the car and called it a day. Michael Derby and Nick Harwood both in the pits. Still waiting for the majority of the field to come through. Derlicka back on the charge now, though, Taylor.
He is, but Romagnolo is also, and they're also coming up on 2 cars of lap traffic. Right in front of these leaders, Victor O'Brien, who decides to pull it down pit road, and James LeBlanc. And Ben Perez comes down pit road along with Romagnolo and Modoff.
And Derlicka stays out.
And Eisler also coming in. Whalen gets real loose, though, out of turn 10. Let's see what he does. He's going to come down pit road. Montini locks him up in turn 10. Let's see what he does.
He is
Coming
pitting
in.
right now, yeah.
Pinto coming off under the Suzuki Bridge, pitting along with Gamma.
I take it this is the drivers maybe taking a one-stop strategy. Maybe it's tight on fuel.
Possibly. We'll have to see. Ellison coming in. Justin Hall coming through turn 10 right now. I think this is the lap we will see everyone come in. Ooh, as Justin Hall gets very offline right now.
So the only car that we've seen able to continue past this lap is Derlicka, who we know by now tends to like to save fuel behind those he's chasing.
We may even see him stay out another lap, possibly. There is several cars in front of him he could utilize a draft off of. Save a little fuel. Let's see what he does this time going under the Suzuki Bridge.
I think this is as far as he's going to be able to go. The number of cars that have come in, to me, says it's incredibly tight for a one-stopper.
It looks like that indeed. He gets a little bit, had to check up a little bit now as he had to get by James LeBlanc, who's in front of him right now.
Now what this does do is this buys Jesper so much more wiggle room than those around him. Because remember, Perez, when he pitted, he came back out with just a hair over 30 minutes to go. So Perez is going to have to save quite a bit to get to the end.
Here's Perez right now. He's coming out from the Suzuki Bridge. Will Jesper get out in time?
Jesper's still stationary.
Still there. There he goes.
Heading out.
And Ben Perez.
It's going to be tight.
It is side by side right now up to turn 3. Perez gets by.
Wow.
Oof.
Can't cut it much closer than that. The gap right back to half a second between them. And Romagnolo came out the worst of all that.
Yeah, but here we go. Lap traffic being the cause. Gary Schilling is a little bit in the way, but moves over out of turn 5. But right now, this is the time where we'll see our leaders be battling through lap traffic now. Multiple cars are in front of our 2 leaders. So let's see what happens here. Coming off of turn 7, both drivers get a good exit off. Romagnolo now is able to close the gap.
I still think that this is now Jesper's race. It just, from what we saw with that extra lap, it is looking comfortably in his hands. So everybody has now taken their stops, it looks like. Yes, indeed. Everybody out there has finished at least one stop. So let's go through our top 10, starting with Ben Perez, currently leading this race. He qualified in second, overtook Jesper. We figure that's part of Jesper's plan. Jesper is still in second place after the pit stops, but being able to go one lap longer than the leader is looking like it could be key to getting a victory. Right now they're being held up by Maxi Sorella as we watch them deal with this lap traffic we were talking about. Gonna let him around. Going back to third, Giuliano Romagnolo also could have saved fuel, but it looks like he didn't save enough fuel as he dropped back in the pit stops and has been trying to regain ground to see if he can get back in this fight. Fourth place, going to be Karl Modoff, another 2.5 seconds back, having begun this race in a 9th. What a nice climb by the number 48. Christian Eisler as well jumps back 1 spot. He started in 4th. He sits in 5th, but a top 5 will do him good in the points. Let's go to the next 5. Taylor?
In the 6th position right now is William Whalen, having a very quiet night after starting inside the top 10 here. Just moving right through the field, not major issues for the number 3 Porsche. In the 7th position is Daniel Pinto. Had a little bit of an issue early on in the race, but was able to recover, working his way inside the top 10. Right behind him is his teammate, Ricardo Gamma, in the number 81 Porsche. These two have been working together throughout the majority of this second half of the race. Let's see what they're able to do towards the end. In the 9th position is Francisco Montini. Francisco had a very interesting off through turn 5, made contact with the wall. Doesn't seem to appear the damage is causing too much issue as he's still within fighting distance of the 2 Sailor Racing Team drivers as he closes in coming off at turn 12. And rounding out your top 10 is Thomas Ellison in the HJ Motorsports Porsche, having a good run and being the main flag carrier for this team as they work their way through here with only a few, not too much longer left in the race as we're halfway through.
And with this being a timed race, as we go to 16th, this is Vargas and Thacker in a bit of a fight in the mid-pack. The other thing that we have to consider, too, is when they do cut it as close as they did on trying to make this a one-stop, how tight is the clock going to be come the final lap? Because if they get that extra lap, the drivers who were already barely trying to save to make it to the end, Taylor, that's not going to be fun for them.
It's not, so it's going to be a battle of who is able to save the most fuel from here on out, as well as in the beginning. As Thacker gets a good run off at turn 5, getting all over the back bumper of Vargas. Backs off a little bit as they make their way towards turn 6.
Yeah, no move into 6. They slow down even more for the sharp right-hander of 7, trying to power off the corner. And Aaron Thacker is going to be within the slipstream. He is very close to the back of Vargas as they run over the hills on the backstretch. Let's see if this is going to be enough to make an attack down into the chicane. Thacker not even thinking about it, doesn't even poke his nose out. Well, maybe a little bit there at the end.
Down up through turns 10, up under the Suzuki Bridge. They're closing in on Thacker's teammate, Justin Hall, who's in the 15th position. He's been having a good night here so far this evening, running inside the top 15 for the majority of the race.
And first place getting hot yet again as they continue to drop Roman Yolo. Derlicka starting to apply a little bit of pressure to Perez now. I would assume that Derlicka has it in his best interest to try and put the pressure on, to try and make Perez pick up the pace.
That would be the smart move as he gets hard on the brakes, right on the back bumper out of turn 3. He is pressuring him to try to use as much fuel that Perez can in order to burn that fuel off to where either Perez has to back off to save fuel or runs out of gas.
Could be easy pickings for Jasperoni as we ride on his rear wing. Now come to the back stretch. And each car getting back to the throttle. A little bit of a gap opened up between Perez and Derlicka after he was so tight on him through the twisty bits.
Looking in at Carl Modoff, he's closing in on Roman Yola. He was about 5/10 faster than Roman Yola that last lap by. So we may have a new battle here brewing for P3. As Roman Yola had to check up a little bit into turn 10. This brings in Modoff even more. Down through turn 12 they go. Great exit off for Modoff.
I remember Modoff with a pair of 4th places and a win. Currently sitting in this 4th spot. Looking to maybe get himself a 2nd podium if he can't get P1 in this race. Roman Yolo under threat as they come up to turn 5. The number 905 has got to be sweating a little bit on whether or not he can get to spray the champagne at the end of this race.
We'll have to see. This is a little bit of a redemption race also. Remember, Roman Yolo and Autobahn had a little bit of a difficult race running in the Porsche GTE here at this same track, even though it's a little bit more a little more calmer conditions compared to running with multi-class racing, but still, as we have a battle for P7 going on, Gama, Pinto, and Montini, as they go out of turn 5 down this little short chute towards 6.
And remember, Gama is teammates with Pinto. So with Pinto being, with Gama being higher in the points, is it too early for team tactics for Pinto to wave him through, or do they not even think about such things?
Depends on what the team thinks about doing as far as for the championship-wise. I know they have a team's championship to worry about, but Gama is doing quite well this season, currently inside the top 5 in the points championship. Montini gets hard on the brakes, right on the back bumper of Gama. Montini's really putting the pressure on him. Pinto has got a little bit of a gap for these two drivers as they go through turn 12. Great exit off.
Certainly can't swap positions if Montini is between them. Gama has to try and hustle to try and get away. Missed the apex of turn 1, but still holds back Montini as they climb towards turn 3. 20 minutes left to go. Starting to get into the dying stages. This is now the final third of this race. We did see some drivers come in early. Are they going to take their second stop very soon here? These three just under a blank. Look at how close under the back of Gama gets Montini. And he is going to get a healthy dose of the draft down the backstretch. But we finally see a pass attempt down into the chicane of 10. A draft also going to Gama on Pinto, but he lifts, and this is going to easily let Montini through. Whoa! Wow!
Ooh, talking about nearly chopping the nose off for Pinto. That was close.
Well, the Sailors team driver of Pinto almost took Montini to the poop deck. Thankfully, both of them came out unscathed. Montini now up into 8th. Pinto still holding on to 7th. Gama demoted to 9th. Ooh, 15th in a battle. As Vargas still holding off Thacker. Thacker had a good look up the inside of him into the chicane, and he's going to get another bite on it down into turn 1. Side by side into the corner. Vargas decides the better of it and just lets him through. Does he hold on to the car? Wow, that thing got loose.
Oh, we got Gary Schillings going off course in front of them. He's able to get off the course before then. But
Schilling just having an incident by himself. Car got loose. My goodness, Vargas, I think, even touched the grass on the outside of 1. I don't think I've ever seen a car be able to save it and keep it on the pavement, having touched the slick stuff.
yeah, Grat. We got a battle going on for P3 right now.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Trying around the outside of turn 6. Modoff is on the charge. Who says he's going to hang back and think about the championship? Aggressive move around a turn that's very hard to make a pass stick. Unfortunately, it looks like it cost him a little bit up to the backstretch.
Yeah, but he's got the draft in tow right now, closing that gap on Roman Yolo down towards turn 9, up towards turn 10.
And Modoff takes it down to the inside. Smooth move, textbook pass into the final chicane. That's going to move him onto the podium.
Great run right now between these two drivers, these two battling back and forth. As we have a battle for the lead right now, starting to brew even more between Dralica and Perez.
So we watched him come onto the backstretch. Perez trying to get himself away from Dralica. This might be for naught, though, as just has been holding on to the back of him. And this is helping Jesper even more because he was already safe on fuel, but the more he just holds right behind him, the more he can save gas for the end.
That is the case right now, so we pretty much might not see Dralica make that pass for the lead till maybe even the final 5 minutes of this race. So it's only a matter of time, pretty much, for Dralica. He's just waiting for the right time. No need of pressure, as Modoff is still about 6 seconds back. Let's see what he can maybe do. It's probably a long shot for him unless these two make a mistake. But Modoff still could maybe pull in. He's been running the fastest laps here recently. He's passed this all race pretty much.
Yeah, and we are riding on the dash of the Texas driver, Jesper Dralica. You see what he sees right now. And boy, this has got to be like a shark smelling blood in the water. Just hunting behind that Porsche, waiting for his moment to happen. 15 minutes left on the clock. Down the back stretch they go once again. Got some lap traffic. They're going to work their way by. Are we finally seeing a peek to the inside? This is a great opportunity. He's got the momentum, and Jesper Durlicka moves back to the lead after having taken the pole and let it get away from him. My goodness, can anybody stop this driver?
Looks like nobody can. Well, so much for waiting for the last 5 minutes, like I was saying, but excellent pass for Durlicka going out of turn, down into turn 10.
We wondered when he would try and make his move, when he felt confident enough to try and move back into the lead, and I think that's our answer. As we head to 9th, we're watching Michael Derby and Nick Harwood. You see Derby running in the HJ Motorsports machine, Harwood giving chase.
Harwood still having a good run, even though he's had quite a bit of damage, quite a bit of beats and bangs throughout the race today. Still able to keep it inside the top 10, or at the top 10, I should say. So really good effort for this driver.
Yeah, and Harwood not having the day he probably wanted, though, with all the contacts that he had. Been dealing with it well. As they come through turn 1 once again. Time is ticking down. We talked about some drivers might have to stop again because they stopped a little bit early, trying to go through for a 2 pit stop strategy. Heading back to our leaders. Perez, for all that we thought that Durlicka has this one in his hands, it looks like he's not letting him go.
No, Perez is not very one to give up quickly, so he's going to try to put as much pressure he can on Durlicka, and hopefully Durlicka might make a mistake. I don't see that happening, but Ben Perez, the 3-time champion, needing to have a good finish here tonight.
Absolutely. Perez really needs to get his season in order. I believe if yeah, Perez has not won yet this season. We're in race number 4. Highly unusual for Perez from what we've seen in past season. Now, it looks like we may have had a technical problem or two with some of the drivers. You seem to have noticed that a few of them have been dropped since a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple of drivers starting to come back in right now. And
that's unfortunate.
It is. It's very unfortunate. Unlike with real racing where, you know, the only major issue you have to worry about is a tire blown or an engine failure. Here on iRacing, you have to worry about losing connection to the iRacing server, and that can be detrimental, especially if you're on a good run. I know it's been happened to me several times, whether it be in endurance racing or oval racing, but I can only imagine for drivers running for a championship here in this series.
Look at this battle on screen. It's Vargas and Montini. Montini has the inside down into the chicane, gets it woed up in time, and actually leaves Montini in the, or excuse me, leaves Vargas in the dust once he gets by. Speaking of trying to leave cars behind, let's check back in on that battle for P3. Romagnolo about a second back, but similar to Perez, not giving up on Carl yet.
No, he's still steadily coming through the race right now. Only about 2/10 slower that last lap, coming up now under the Suzuki bridge. Let's see who was faster this time by. Down through turn 12, a lot of great exit speed you need to get through there. So we look and see, not too far.
Curious who has the fastest lap right now, actually, because remember Modov, we saw him take it multiple times, but I lost a little bit of track of. Oh, Modov still has it. Whoa, though, as he went through turn 4, heading to the S's, there was quite a bit of his car off into the dirt. Oh, our leaders are hitting traffic big time. Derlicka just got checked up by Carini. Look at this. This is bringing them very close together. Locks them up through turn 7. And the saving grace for Derlicka is that Perez as well could not track out coming out of turn 7. This is the lapped car of Carini. Finally lifts, lets them through. Tense moments for Jess Barodi. All right, 10 minutes to go, and things have just heated up, Taylor.
Yes, indeed they have. Both drivers, it was still, as we see, one of those drivers who pitted early, James LeBlanc, coming in for a pit stop.
All right, that's one of our 2 stoppers. There's going to be a little bit shuffled down the order. I have to say, I have to imagine that the 1 stopper is the faster strategy today, if you can make it to the end.
Most definitely.
Oh, and just on screen, as we switched over to 17th, that was Perez we saw in the background going a little wide at turn 5, so he did drop some time. But this battle right now, Justin Hall working on Vargas. Again, this is the battle for 18th. Vargas not too far behind Montini, who recently passed him.
Yeah, I believe Montini was one of those drivers who had an issue with connection, along with William Whalen. So unfortunate for those drivers. That now moves Gama and Pinto up a position, along with Ellison, and moves Nick Hardwood back inside the top 10, as only 10 cars are on the lead lap.
Yeah, for a short lap, that's not a huge surprise. So many cars being a lap down. There you see Ricardo Gama. Again, a bit of a different race from what we saw a week ago, sitting in a 6th after he took the pole in Suzuka and managed to get a podium. He has just been nowhere today. Ooh, Harwood and Derby getting very close together. Last car is on the lead lap right now. How far are they to our leaders? Not too far. But this is not good news for Jesper and Benjamin then, because these guys won't want to give up time. You never like to come across battling cars when you're lapping traffic.
No, it's very difficult to get by them, and it's very difficult for the battling cars to try to want to give up position, because you do not want to lose time on the car ahead of you. You want to try to make sure you gap out those the competition as best you can before the leaders come up on you. To go down into turn 1, Hardwood gets right on the back bumper, but has to back off to make the corner stick. Up through turn 2 and turn 3. Great run by both drivers. I'm not able to gain a whole lot of time through there.
See how much they have to bounce around, especially the rear of that Porsche. And I do want to say, I saw up at the top of the screen a flash of purple. Ben Perez now set the fastest lap of the race. So is he saving or is he not? Usually you don't set fastest laps of the race when you're saving fuel.
I don't think he's saving anymore. I think now is the time that Ben Perez kicks in the afterburners and goes up to try to take this win away from Jesper Derlicka.
A 3-time champion trying to take the win away from a 2-time winner in this series. Derlicka looking to make it 3 for 4 so far this season and continue to improve his chances to take a championship in his rookie season. And these guys, I think they are set to battle if they need to, because it is a whole 8 seconds, Taylor, back to the car in third.
It is. So these guys, even if they make a small mistake, it will not affect the outcome for that third-place driver of Karl Modov. Now, if they start getting battling too much and more mistakes happen, we might see Karl Modov, but right now, they're closing in on Nick Harwood and Michael Derby. They're now coming out of turn 5, while Jesper just came off of turn 5 right now.
Yeah, they're going to get lapped very soon. And again, this is a battle for position. This is for 9th and 10th. So it is worth a fair amount of points. They don't want to give way for as they come onto the backstretch. They're not going to get them here. I have to imagine at least by the front stretch, they should be on the gearbox of Harwood.
They should be, unless something happens. But right now, Ben Perez is a couple of car lengths back, giving Jesper a little bit of breathing room. Making their way down towards turn 10, looking in at the battle of Harwood and Derby. Up under the Suzuki Bridge, they make their way under Derby, still holding on to that 9th position. Here comes Jesper Drlicka.
This is looking back from the gearbox of Harwood on Drlicka's Ford GT. Does catch him on the front stretch, and this is where he's got to make a decisive move, because if he gets caught behind them in the S's, this could bring Perez right on top of him.
Here we go. Let's see what happens. Down into turn 3.
Still stuck behind him. And you can already see the ground that is being gained by the driver of Ben Perez. The Hoosier sees his chances increasing. Is Harwood going to pull over and let him through? Gives the inside line to Jesper Drlicka. There's one car through, 2 cars through. Keeps from being balked by the lapped car, does Ben Perez. Now they have to get by Michael Derby. He sees that he's got a gap to Harwood, who he's fighting with. Is he going to want to be willing to give this up here on the backstretch?
That would be the smart thing to do. Here they go down the front straightaway. Derby gets in a little bit of a defensive, goes to the inside, giving Jesper that outside lane, makes it easier for him. Ben Perez now does the same down into turn 10. Derby just breaks a little bit early to let them both through.
Look at that sportsmanlike behavior. He could have made it hard on the leaders and gained so much time on Harwood, but decided not to interrupt their battle. So on we go now with 3.5 minutes left on the clock.
Looking back now in that battle, that little timeout now. Now they're back in it again. Derby and Harwood. It's just a little halftime break for those two.
Yeah, I've always compared it to playing hockey in the street and somebody calling car, and everybody takes a pause while the car goes by, and then you continue as soon as they leave. That battle for the lead, though, back down to half a second. This is for all the marbles. And I believe when they come to the line, is it going to be 3 laps to go? Or is it 2?
Probably 2 laps to go. Sounds like
3
to go.
3 laps to go, yeah. Oof. The number 1 of Ben Perez. We kept asking who is going to be a match for him. Last season, it looked like we finally had some drivers. We thought, oh, it's going to be even tastier this season. They'll be back.
Ooh,
maybe they've learned something.
In front of them.
That's Victor O'Brien.
Was able to keep it off away from the leaders.
Even though it may have looked like he didn't interrupt them, but that can so easily throw you off. Jesper could have lost time being distracted, and indeed it's down to under 0.5 of a second from Drlicka to Perez. Well, the drivers that we thought were going to give Perez a fight really have not shown much pace so far this season. It's been Drlicka, it's been Modov, it's been Gama, it's been all the newcomers who have stormed the castle and really shaken things up. Onto the backstretch we go once again. Perez trying to get the rear grip of that Porsche to give him something, and that is a great run, Taylor.
It's a good run. Here we go, utilizing the draft down this back straightaway through turns 8 and turn 9. He's closing that gap. Let's see what they do down towards turn 10. Less than a car length now probably away from the Drlicka. Backs off a little bit, gets hard on the brakes again through turns 10. Going back to that sidewinding up through the Suzuki Bridge of turn 11. Back down through turn 12.
Yeah, that looked like Perez knew he was not nearly close enough, but that gives him an idea of what's happening
P3.
there. Go ahead.
As we see a new P3, Giuliano Romagnolo gets by Carl Modov as both of them come down pit road.
Oh, and they can't make it. We wondered who can get to the end. They've decided they cannot get there.
So that makes us wonder. The battle for the lead's heating up. Will they make it? Ooh, Dralica makes a mistake off of turn 5. Side by side down the straightaway they go. Ben Perez takes the lead. Down into turn 6, side by side still. Ooh, Perez gets a little bit loose. Dralica back into the stop spot.
Yeah, he was on the outside into that corner, but a bad exit, and it's going to be a drag race down the backstretch as the momentum currently goes to Ben Perez, but yet again, he is going to find himself on the outside. Can he clear the car of Jesperoni? He's coming back at him as that 4GT picks up speed, late on the brakes yet again. Down to the inside, Jesper's not willing to give this one up. What about these two? Do they have enough to make it to the end? Are we going to see the checkers or the white flag this time? It's going to be oh so tight. White flag is out just as they cross the line. Do they have enough fuel? They are committed now. The final lap, Taylor.
Here we go, up through turn 1, up into turn 2. Jesper Dralica still holding on. Ben Perez trying everything he can. Lap traffic in front of them as they go down towards the S's. Still a little bit of a gap between Perez, Dralica. These two are battling out all night long. Who will make it on fuel? Who will take home the checker flag? Up through turn 5, a couple of cars spinning off through turn 5. But a bunch of lap traffic between these two. This is going to be an interesting final lap. Through turn 6 they go.
Cars battling ahead of them. That's Vargas and Valenzuela, two teammates. Oh, and they're in a horrible spot. They balk the car of Jesper Dralica. Is this going to be enough for Perez? Or does Perez have enough fuel? He's dropping back. That should have been easy pickings for him. Coming onto this straightaway. More cars slowing ahead of them. Thomas Ellison appears to be out of fuel. Perez now
is out of fuel.
Hand over fist. Can Dralica take it to the line? Jesper Dralica, just one more corner to go. For the third time this season, Jesperoni takes the win on fuel strategy. And Perez is cruising. Where is Roman Yolo? He is way back there. Perez coasts down the hill with just enough to take this second place. Look at that.
Michael Derby's out of fuel as well.
Roman Yolo, despite the extra stop, is going to be able to take second. He's well clear. Third. He is well clear of Karl Modoff. Didn't think he could make it to the end, but good call to jump in when he did. Giuliano Romagnolo on the podium. Modoff follows him. Another top 5 for Karl, with Christian Eisler getting himself a top 5.
Great run for Eisler. He needed that good run, but Joe, we had the 10 hours of Petit Le Mans for the iRacing version. We were here with PRL for the GTEs here. What a great way to kick off the actual 10 hours of Petit Le Mans this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying to catch the action of that after this. So with that, as the rest of the cars stream across the line, Gamo in 6th, Pinto in 7th, we're going to take a break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. But stick around because we'll have all the upcoming races here on the GSRC.
In the beginning, I was keeping pace with them, but I was fuel saving from the very beginning. I just couldn't keep pace with, especially with Jesper. The Ford is really good on fuel savings around here. The Ford is actually dominant at Road Atlanta. Just this past weekend, basically everybody was racing the Ford. But yeah, I mean, Jesper did an amazing job. So I wasn't battling for a win today. I knew that. But I really did think that I could have taken second. I mean, I guess it was only a couple of corners away that Ben could have ran out of fuel. But for me, just the lap before the white, when the white came out, my fuel mileage was at 0.9 for a lap, and I had to bring it in. There was no other way. So I just took my chances, and I knew when Carl and I were battling as well that he was pushing a lot harder than I was. I let him by pretty easily and kind of just coasted from there. So at that point, I kind of knew that the extra stop was needed.
Also, apologies to the audience. We just got sound back here for the interviews, thankfully, to hear Giuliano's take on this race. Now, next round going to Detroit. We saw how that one was last season, and thankfully it wasn't as bad as some feared. But are you at all afraid? I mean, what are your thoughts going into that one?
I actually love Detroit. Detroit's probably one of my top favorite tracks. Bathurst and Detroit are similar, where you have to be on the edge all the time, basically no more than, a couple feet away from the walls all the time, hopping curbs. So I like these kind of tracks. I like these street circuits kind of vibes. I'm excited. I think I'll do well. I haven't raced there for a while. I think SIMMSA was there a while, like maybe last season or the season before that when it first came out. So I was pretty dominant actually. But again, BOP changes, cars change. So I'll have to do some practice, but I'm excited.
All right. Well, we'll wish the best for you there. And one last question before we let you go. Do you predict a win this season in this series?
Honestly, I really do. I really hope so. I think I'm doing pretty good so far. I had a rough time last week at Suzuka. Just me, mental errors. I hit Ben. And then kind of from there, just kind of unfolded. I knew I was fast. I knew I could have, at least fought for another podium. But yeah, win's always in the sights, right? So hoping the next couple races I'll be able to take one down for Wyvern Racing.
All right. We'll keep an eye on you. Maybe we'll see you in victory lane. Thanks for talking to us, and congratulations on third.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So that's going to be it for our interviews for today, which means we are going to close up. A big thank you to a few people, especially SIMMSA. That's the Simulation Motorsports Association. Definitely check them out. You can find them at SIMMSA.com. They are the official sponsor of PRL this season. And speaking of which, thank you to the PRL, the Precision Racing League, for organizing the American iRacing Tuesday series. There's a lot of hard work that goes in behind the scenes on these. And of course, we appreciate all that they do and for coming back to broadcast with GSRC. Another small shout out from myself personally. A big thank you to a longtime friend of mine. Apparently, my friend Ellen from Pennsylvania has tuned in and been watching part of this race. So hello, Ellen. Glad you got to watch me at work for once. A big thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, or Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race, as we mentioned, we're going up to Michigan for Detroit, the street course. Oh, that is going to be terrifying for a few people. That'll be Tuesday, October 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.